Good morning. Hi, everybody. It's been a long time since I've been on live, and so I wanted to hop on and say hello, and also to take a moment to share some reflections that I've been having some strong feelings this morning. So I wanted to come on and share. I'm going to wait a little bit until people come on. So thank you for joining. Hi, everybody. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me see if everything's... Why are we going black here? Hold on a second. Give me a... Oh no! Can you hear my voice? Something is going on. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back on. Sorry, something happened to my phone. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm gonna wait for a few minutes until everybody joins. Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you're all doing good. It's morning here right now. In LA, it's about 9:30 a.m. Hi, Miwa. So I'm going to wait a few minutes before starting and have people join in. Please excuse my camera angle here. I'm going to put this up on YouTube afterwards and making sure that everything is in the right direction, because I noticed when I filmed the other way during Instagram Live and I post it, the image is a lot smaller, and so people have been asking if I can kind of turn it this way, so hopefully it helps. Hi, Victoria. Hi. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to come on today is because one, this afternoon I'll be at Design Week speaking on a panel with two other amazing women, and also curated by my very good friend Jessica Komingor of Marbury. So if you're in Los Angeles and you would like to come to the mindfulness talk this afternoon, see you soon. Oh, are you gonna come? I want to see you. But yeah, if you're in LA and you are interested in joining in the conversation, please come by. It'd be wonderful to see you. It starts at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So come on down. It's at the Row, LA. And it'll be a great discussion. Oh, I know. I wish you could come too. I'm going to try to see if I can shoot a little bit of Instagram stories for you to share the event. But during, most likely I won't be able to film. So if you can make it down, come on down. I think it'll be great. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to come on today is because I'm having really strong feedback from the universe and just kind of energies coming through. About the passing of two pretty prominent figures in the news. If you follow U.S. news, some individuals have passed on, and it's a very, I think, interesting topic, and also a very close to heart topic. And I've also had the, I would say, privilege, and also very honored to have done energy readings for families who have had family members and close friends who have passed through taking their own lives and suicide. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think that it's important to be vocal about it, and also to address different ways of approaching it, because I know that it can be a very difficult conversation to have. And I've been able to kind of think through and to understand more about what it might be like to pass on with that type of incident happening. So that's kind of the topic for today that I wanted to share. Please feel free to ask your questions or chime in on the comment section there. I always love being able to talk with you and answer any questions you might have. So yeah, so I think that, just to be clear, my stance on suicide and people who have taken their lives through energy reading, and what I've understood, is that it's not always, I wouldn't say sometimes it is, but not always is it a negative happening. And I think a lot of times when I say this, people are very skeptical, or they can be a little bit confused, because I think in at least our society, Western society, people equate suicide to something negative. And which was actually my own personal thoughts as well before I started to do energy readings and be able to connect. So for myself, my specialty is not in connecting with past people who have passed on, so spirits and ghosts and things like that is not my specialty, but I'm able to connect with a loved one or someone who passed if it's been within a week. So since the day of their passing through the week, if I'm able to channel through someone who's really close to them, or someone who's been able to have a lot of conversations, or just kind of spirit to spirit connection, I'm able to connect. And so through that, I've learned so much about the idea of why someone might decide to choose suicide as their way of exiting our world. And so I wanted to share a little bit about this, not because I'm saying that this is correct or that this is the way to see it. It's just another perspective of suicide. And I think that by sharing this, maybe it can help someone, process their experience more, or be able to connect with maybe their past ones. Because what I've realized is that after the 7 days of a loved one passing, not just with suicide, but with other ways of passing, that the people who are the closest to these individuals actually have the oh, sorry. That's my she comes and helps me around the house. Her name's Patty. I love her. Anyway, so excuse me. So so I feel that people who are connected to these loved ones have the best access to their spirits and be able to connect with them. I mean, I think everybody knows all this, but anyways, so so with suicide, again, a lot of times when people come for energy readings, because they are trying to figure things out about it, the first thing I always tell them is that I'm not for sure until I check in with the person who's passed, but most or sometimes it's not always a negative reason, or what happened might be negative, or it might have been a negative, catalyst, I guess. But the reason behind it, the core reason why someone might decide to pass away, might not actually be negative. And the reason why I say this is because from what I've understood through contact with those who have passed on, I actually had a really close childhood friend who had passed away by taking his own life not too long ago. And it was really hard to process at first until I was able to connect to him through his close cousin, who's also a childhood friend, and found out that, the reason why not the only reason, but one of the reasons why he had passed on is because he was very, 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 very closely tied to his grandmother, who had passed away about, I don't know how long before, maybe close to 20 years? No, maybe not that long, maybe 15 years or so. But, and I think he never really was able to kind of get past her passing because they had a very strong soul connection. And so a lot of the reasons why I think he had a hard time staying on Earth after the passing of his grandmother is because of that soul connection. And so when I kind of trail back a little bit more, when we as spirits or souls decide to enter into this world, into physical form, because beyond this physical form we all have our spirit, and our spirit is never ending. It's eternal. So we come in as spirit form into physical form, and so when we do that, we actually choose to have exit points. And what I mean by that is, in physical form, it's actually really, really tough. And I think a lot of people can agree is that, everybody, no matter if you're rich or poor, you are the most gifted person in the world, you have the most fame in the world, as we have witnessed, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're happy or that it's any easier for us to be on this earth. And the reason why is because when we are in spirit form, we're very limitless and we don't have any kind of restrictions, and it's a lot lighter for us to exist. But when we come into physical form, it's very, very heavy. And especially on Earth right now, there's just a lot of things happening, whether it's environmentally or spiritually, or, in the physical world, there's wars, there's famine, there's so much going on that it's really quite difficult for us to process all of this. And so it starts to weigh heavily on our hearts and our minds. And so when that happens, we have decided prior to coming to physical form that we'll have exit plans. And what I mean by exit plans is that we give ourselves prior opportunities to choose to exit. So that can mean various ways of passing, and whether it's an accident or whatever, that we actually choose, because there is a point where we might want to reflect, or there might be situations in our lives where we need to decide to part from Earth, because it's not necessarily always time for us, but that it might be a little bit too much. So with that said, that's why people have, I think, near-death experiences, because after they're at that cusp and they're trying to figure out whether they want to stay on Earth or whether they want to part, it's kind of like at that moment of exiting, they decide, oh, okay, you know what, actually I want to stay down here, and they come back down. So that's very, very, very simplified version of near-death experience, but there's a lot more that goes on there. So when people choose to take their own lives when they're parting Earth, the reason why I say it's not always at the core of it, not the actual first, how do I say it? So it could be depression, or it could be mental illness, or it could just be various other reasons why people decide to pass on by taking their own life. But the core reason, the spirit reason or soul reason why someone might decide to leave is not always necessarily negative. And I think those who are left behind, like myself and family members or anybody, I think most people have experienced loss in their life, not just with suicide, but with other ways, that the people who are left behind tend to feel like that, like they're left behind, that they have a lot of these questions, like why did that person decide to pass, and what could I have done? And a lot of times when it comes to suicide, people tend to get down on themselves, thinking that they could have done something. And in the case of my good friend who had passed on, before I was able to channel him, I didn't know why. And I think his family felt that maybe they could have done something differently. But upon asking, I found out that it was his decision, that he felt that it was something that he not wanted to do, but that he needed, I think, for his own soul progression. Now, for those who pass on by taking their own lives, there are times when you're kind of in limbo, because basically when we come onto this planet, we all have missions, or we all have reasons why we're here. And so when we decide to cut it short, it's almost as if we haven't finished our story yet, or that we haven't been able to finalize all the things that we had planned before coming. So sometimes you're in limbo, and at times it means that soul needs to return to finish what they came here to do. But again, it's not always a negative thing, and I think that that's really important for all of us to kind of ponder upon. Again, I'm not trying to make people think any differently in the sense of saying like, oh, that's wrong or this is right, but just a different perspective on it, because it really helped me a lot to process death and loss, and why some people might choose to pass naturally versus some people who decide to pass in a way that is within their own decision. And I think that the critical point is that when the person decides to pass on through their own hands or their own means, it's never because they're blaming it on another, or that they feel like, oh, that person should have done something for me, or why was I living that kind of life, or it's never a very negative feeling that I get from someone passing on. It's always once you are out of your physical body and you're again back into spirit form, it's almost as if you're able to see things beyond just what you have been thinking, or within just our limitations of our human mind. It's so eternally expansive that you get to see everything all at once, and why things are the way it is, or why you are thinking that way. So it's very reflective, and it comes from a place of peace and love. And so it's never like some people say, oh, so and so my good friend or my family member have passed away through suicide, and they did it. I feel like it was in vain, and that it was because I did this and this, and so they're confessing that they felt their negative actions affected that person, and that made them pass away. Now, again, it might be true in physical form. So as human form, it might be true that because of somebody says something or did something, whatever, it could have just been like the very last bit before the person decides to pass on. But again, there's always a core reason and a more deeply rooted reason for the spirit to return back out of physical form, even if it means that they have to take their own life. And sometimes it could be because they have a soul contract with another soul that they're very closely tied to, and they just need to return. Sometimes it means that they, the mission that they had decided to take on while they're on Earth, it was just a little bit too much for them at the time, and they needed a little bit of a, I don't want to say break, but it's almost like they need time to reflect. Sometimes some people pass because they felt that it's time for them. And again, it goes back to this whole exit plan where you, as a spirit, have determined, it depends on the spirit, but most of the time it's 2 to 3 exit points in anyone's life. And those exit points can also include suicide sometimes. And so it's not always a negative thing. Sometimes people just decide that they, that they need it, or that they, something inside them clicks, like almost like an alarm clock, and they might not know why it's calling, or they might not know why it's time for them, but they feel it very strongly. So and I've experienced that as well, where people, it's not a morbid thing, or it's not a very negative thing to them. It's almost like, I've lived my life, I've done what I want to do, and I don't want to continue staying and become old and let nature take its course. So they've decided to say goodbye when they felt it was right. So again, I think that with media and with the way that we've kind of been brought up, we immediately equate someone taking their own life as negative. But and again, myself included, that's kind of what I thought growing up. But as I've, again, done energy readings and been able to connect other souls, I've realized that it's not always negative. And even if it is negatively induced, that after they have passed on, it's almost as if it's something that they as spirits reflect upon. And the most important thing that we can do as those who have been left is, through people's passings, it's the most... it's the closest to what we can experience of our own passing. And when we are at that brink of being physical form versus not, there is almost like this flash realization. So how people say, like, before they're about to pass on, they have like all these like flashbacks and they have all these epiphanies. Well, I think that when people that are close to us, or people who have influenced us, it doesn't have to be necessarily close, it can be a public figure, but that they've affected our lives deeply. And when they pass, it's a really good catalyst and moment to reflect upon what is truly important in our lives. How do we want to live our lives? What does their passing mean to us? And it's almost like as if it clicks on things in our own being, and helps us to understand the world a little bit better. So passing is never, in that sense, never a negative thing, because we who are left are able to, if we are able to take it in a positive way, in the sense of really kind of harnessing their life power and energy, and being able to understand our own meaning of life, then their lives are never in passing in vain, and they continue to influence other spirits and souls as we live on and pass on and through generations and things like that. So, okay. That's what I wanted to share today, because I've been deeply affected by, there's just been a lot of passings lately around me, whether they're close friends or just people I've met through, again, energy reading, or even conversations. It's been a lot more prevalent, I notice, suicide. And with all the many things in the world right now happening, I I feel strongly about cherishing each other's lives, cherishing our own lives, to be thankful to be able to live. And time will come when we have to pass on, however way that may be, whether it's tragic or whether it's natural, but we have a very limited time here. And so I think during that time, what is it that we can do to make sure that our lives are lived fully? And within that, I think it's really important for us to also understand that the passing of other spirits, because of it's their time or that they felt it's needed, they needed to go, that we can fully embrace it. And even if it makes us sad in the beginning, and even if we are grieving, that's all part of the process. But after that is the question of, how are we going to take that life that was lived and make it a part of our own lives in a way that will fuel and propel us forward, and continue to push us forward to do what we need to do while we're here. And I want that to be, I guess, part of the way that we are able to see our world, and the way that we're able to see our own lives, is that it is very precious. Time, energy spent, our lives, moments we're spending like this together, all of this is very precious because we choose to do it. No one's forcing us, so we're choosing to live our lives, and our lives are given to us by our lives are given to us by our parents and ancestors, and there's so much that goes into us existing. And so how can we make that existence meaningful, even and also through the lives of those that pass on? Anyways, some thoughts from this morning, and I had to hop on and share because, again, it's just very strongly coming through. And I think that there are some things to be thought of and considered with the passing of all these various public figures happening so rapidly back to back. There's always something there behind it, the message. And although I might not be even touching on the true message behind it yet, I think that it's important to think about it, take some time to understand that life and death is as a part of our living. And it's also a part of our awakening and being. And how can we together make sure that each and every one of us can appreciate that within ourselves and those around us as well. Anyways, thank you for joining. If anybody have any questions, hold on, let me scroll, see if I miss any questions. And if you have any questions right now, I'm more than happy to answer them before I log off. So many highs. Hi. Shoshana, hi. Thank you. Hi, Margarita. Victoria. I know. Everybody, so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Again, I'm just scrolling right now, making sure I'm not missing any questions here, but it looks like people are just joining in and hanging out, which I always appreciate. Still scrolling. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to fill them in. I think I'm almost done here. Oh, thank you so much for the hearts. You guys are so kind. Thank you. Hi, Angie. I think I saw that. Okay, I'm still scrolling, almost at the very bottom. Oh, Wildflower Girl, you're welcome. And thank you. Clindo Elilio? I hope I pronounced that right. 帰ってきた。ありがとう。ただいま。Oh, thank you so much for joining. Are you referring to Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain? Yes, I am. Not to say that that's the only thing that's propelling it, because with some private energy readings I've done recently, there's just been a lot of suicide. It's come up a lot, and it's been happening since I would say it's been about a good year where it just feels like a lot of it is happening simultaneously all at once, back to back, publicly and privately. So I don't know, I felt like it was time to talk about it a little bit. Thank you, Victoria, for staying on and listening. Appreciate you so much. Your references to ancestors really touch. Oh, thank you, Gabby. It's important. We, our DNA, our physical beings, are connected to our ancestors, whether we feel it or not. Oh, thank you, nice guy, Patty. Thank you so much. Means link in French. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. おやすみ。元気でね。Yes. また話そうね. Okay, good. So, looks like there's no questions. And again, I'm always appreciative of your time and tuning in to my sudden Instagram lives. I notice these are very spontaneous, and I tend to come on when I'm having some kind of very strong emotional something, or I'm just needing to talk about something, or tune in and catch up with all of you and answer questions whenever I can. But again, please know that each and every one of your lives are precious, that they are meaningful, and you are still present here because you are needed here by all of us. And we are all here to do our little piece. No one person is any special or more important than anyone else. Some people might receive more attention than others, or so it seems, but you never know how you're affecting other people, those who are around you or those who are close to you. Just because it might seem like you're not reaching a lot of people doesn't mean that you're not affecting people on a very deep level. And I think that's what we're needing. And the more people who can understand this, who can harness the idea that they are needed on this planet more than ever to help one another, even if it's just one person that says to you, like, look, just because of you, I'm able to exist, or that I'm able to do this and this and this. That in itself is so powerful, so powerful. And it's because we are all interconnected. So even if I might not be directly affecting somebody, if somebody else is affecting another in a positive way, who knows how that would be affecting me? You never really know. And so it's really important that each person that we're able to be there for, including our own selves, that it does make a huge difference. And again, time is limited. We're not going to be here in our current incarnation forever. And so please take care of yourselves and take care of your life. Question. Do you believe in negative forces influencing people? Okay, so I do get this question quite often, and people within this realm talk about bad spirits or ghosts that are coming to haunt us and things like that. So generally, no. And what I mean by that is all humans innately are made of love. Not love in the superficial sense of what we think, but love in the sense of all-encompassing, non-conforming, non-judgmental, all wrapped into one unconditional love. So in the very, very essence of who we are, when we talk about like having the heart of God, or in Buddhism you say the heart of Buddha, or whatever you want to word it as, we are innately spirit. And so no, I don't believe that there are people who are negative. Now, but because when we incarnate into physical form, part of the learning process is to understand that there are dualities within our world. Not to say that it's like that universally, but just part of our learning process. And during that time, we do encounter negative forces and negative energies that sometimes, kind of what I was talking about earlier, if you're in limbo and you are kind of neither here nor there. Like, so people who have maybe, let's say, tried to pass on, but something is holding them back from letting go completely. Those type of people might be lingering, and that, can cause some negativity. Also, another way that people encounter negative energies and negative happenings is when we are under substances, or when we open ourselves up without consciously realizing that we're kind of opening ourselves up to being vulnerable to whatever may come in. Sometimes that does usher in negativity, in the sense of that those that are being created within the human realm. So again, like I said, it might not be directly related to us, but all this war and terrorism and all the negative things that are happening can very much affect us energetically without realizing it. It can bring on depression or anxiety, or so many different ways that it manifests, not only just mentally but physically as well. Cancer and all these autoimmune diseases, I think they're all very interconnected. And so in that sense, that's why I'm also a strong believer of being very conscious about how you're holding your heart all the time, and how you are associating yourself with others, with your environment, with just in general, how we are mentally aware of what is happening, and how it's crucial to be able to decipher between, okay, do we want this in our life or not? Is this something that we need or not? And to try to surround ourselves as much as possible with energies that uplift us, because that actually, without realizing, is a good shield and is a good way to kind of usher away any kind of negativity that comes. Now, some people have speculated or have said that there is negative beings and forces beyond the planet, which is a whole nother conversation. But let me just say this. In order to not bring negativity into your life, one, be conscious of what type of energy you are emitting, that we are emitting as beings, because that actually helps to guard us from negativity coming in. And two, to also be aware of where you are most vulnerable, in what state you're most vulnerable, and make sure that when that happens, that you are consciously making an effort to try to not be in a position where negative energies come into you when you are at that state. Hopefully that makes sense. Thanks for your question. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty true, but we're also all very absorbed in our personal lives. We tend to easily weigh how well or good our lives are by how well we're faring most times in a material sense. Very true. Yeah, I must agree on that one too. It's hard. We live in a very physical world, and as long as it's physical, we're in physical human form, I think we'll always be easily swayed by physicality, I guess. So whether it's money, possessions, power, prestige, all the things that I think are very physically, we're able to physically grasp them. I think it because it gives us some sense of comfort and some sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Not conformity. Some sense of things being not chaotic, but in order. It gives us like this sense of order, I guess, where it's predictable, we understand what's happening, but I think those things also tend to bog us down and create too much control in our lives, to the point where it starts to control us. So again, it's a constant battle, not really battle, I guess, but it's a constant trying to keep aware and awake of what's important to us, constantly asking this question, like, what do we need in our lives? What do we want to bring more into our lives? What brings us meaning and fulfillment and things like that? So I agree with you, though. It's hard. I battle it all the time. So thanks for your comment. I really appreciate that. This will make a great podcast. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much. I should create a podcast. I know I need a team, though. Creating podcasts, I actually did for a little bit. I don't know if some of you know, but I actually did a little start to a podcast called I, which it's still my project in the back of my mind. I would love to continue doing it, but I need more time and I need a team. I think that's something that I'll have to look into sometime, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that thought. I love podcasts, so that means a lot to me. Thank you. Makes sense and completely agree, girl. I buy your book. Oh, thanks. Oh man, I would love to write another book. I've been thinking about it, and actually, if a publisher comes around and offers a good book deal, I might take them up on their offer. I've been thinking about a few books actually. I love writing, so yeah, something on the back of my mind. But thank you. That means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm hope that makes sense. For a long time, I like to think I've had the consciousness and awareness about what's going on in my mind, in my soul, my core. And after years of always trying to steer things my way, or in hard times, misinterpreting perseverance as patience. I'm only now realizing, knowing when to detach myself from life's forces which are beyond my control. Some deep thinking there, and also just riding the wave. Yeah. Again, I agree. I think there are times when we have to be able to let go and kind of flow with what's happening, and and there's so many things. I think we try to make things very absolute, and again, this is the whole thing about physicality and like being in human form, is that we tend to want to, because it brings us comfort and reassurance, we tend to want to say, if we see something that's working, then we'll say, okay, that's what we need to do, like fully. And I'm also like this as well, very fixed. So we'll say, okay, that seems to be the way that people say it works, so let's do it. And we have to realize that it's actually a combination of a lot of things. So sometimes we need to be patient for some things to happen. Sometimes we need to go after things to make it manifest. Sometimes, we need to let go so that we allow space to usher in the things that we are seeking. And all of this happens simultaneously. All of this happens in a way that we have to be able to kind of stay aware enough to know when to pull back, when to push forward. And again, also it has a lot to do with us as individual beings. Sometimes some people, depending on what their, again, life mission is and what they're meant to do, they push out a lot, and they need to go and get and make things happen, and that's kind of their calling. Other people, they're very withdrawn and they kind of hold their energy internally. So on the outside, it might look like they're really not doing much, but there's a lot to be said about those who are very quiet and watching and observing, and they also have a very important role to play. So all that to say is, yeah, it's all part of the learning, I think. Including myself, always learning. Anyways, thank you all. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you all so much for joining today. Again, I'll be posting this on my YouTube channel as well. If you want to watch it again or share it, please do. But today at 3 o'clock, I will be at the Row, downtown LA, for a panel. I think 3 to 4. And you can find out more information about that panel on my Instagram stories. Like if you look underneath my profile, you'll see a little bit of like some story about design LA. So there'll be information there if you want to come check it out. I think if you do come by today and you haven't RSVP'd, you might be able to stand on the backside and still listen. So we'll be talking with some amazing women about mindfulness, kind of on topic today. So if you're interested, come on down at 3. I would love to see you there and talk, and yeah, always good to connect. Have a wonderful rest of the day, or if you're on the part of the earth where you're about to go to sleep, good night. And hopefully I'll see you back on here again very spontaneously. It's always nice to connect with you, and thank you again for your support. I truly, truly appreciate being on this earth together with you and on this journey together. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you.